telling stories, and every foreign writer, I think it's their personal experiences that somehow seep into their writings, and what they have experienced in the world with their friends and relatives, and whatever other experiences they have had in the world. So that kind of reflects in their writing as well, and also the I think get into the narrative. So I think it's really important that we write from the heart. Because you don't have to have a particular genre. Own voice and to give. It's not rocket. So it's really important. Every writer has his or her own voice, and it's very important to give exposure to that voice and thank you.
This is a question that I think Satyadeep would be very much interested in, because this is something that I've heard him speak about many times. So, Satya, please.
Yeah, in fact, thank you. Ruskin Bond's birthday. Oh. Happy birthday, Ruskin Bond. The person who supposedly introduced the Himalayan region into fiction to the English-speaking or English-reading crowd that way. In a big way. So it's very important that you claim and reclaim stories, because यसलाई मैले नेपालीमा भन्नु पर्यो भने चाहिँ हाम्रो कथा हामीले लेखेन भने कसले लेख्ने? Stories in English is because we are the first generation educated people. Simple. My forefathers did not study PhD in my family. Clan. So who will write for us? We will have to write our stories. You all are lucky that you all are studying in government schools which are English medium. There are schools which do not have English medium in schools. Government schools. So these are very important questions that when we write stories. किनभने नेपाली साहित्यमा हाम्रो कथाहरू थुप्रै लेखिएको छ, तर एउटा भास्ट मेजोरिटीमा गएको छैन. एउटा ह्युज एउटा जुन चाहिँ पढ्ने एउटा जमात छ, उहाँहरूकोमा पुग्न सकेको छैन, किनभने उहाँहरूले नेपाली, they don't know Nepali. So what do you do with that? You write in English or you get it translated as Ajit has done. Wonderful. So now that we are seeing a lot of translation works that are happening in English by our own people, by someone who knows this region and knows the nuances of this region, because many things get lost in translation if you do not know the region. And that is where you claim and reclaim the spaces of writing. I don't know.
Of course it makes sense. Okay, I think there's a loose connection. Can I request the students to kind of just settle down a bit? Please.
There's a lot of movement upstairs, so
it's very distracting.
Teacher is getting distracted.
All right, thank you. So we'll continue. Ajit, so Nepal has not had the same kind of colonial history that we have. We have had to kind of reclaim our stories, right? But in the light of what I just said about reclaiming or claiming our stories, would you agree that's true for you as well, for Nepal?
Yeah. We didn't have a long history of literary writing or academic writing, and it's just 100 years old history, literary traditions. And whatever little writing there has been on the Himalayas has been by foreigners, people like Seri Ortner, who have written about Sherpa, and there are other academics who have written about Tamang communities, Thakali communities, and there have been allegations, criticism that they have misrepresented. They have written of those communities, those people through Western gaze, through Western perspective. So there is always a chance when someone from other cultures or from other geographical regions, they come over to your community and starts writing about that. So it's better if you have someone from your community, people writing about their community. So I think community, because you can build from that. You can criticize whenever they have misrepresented the culture or the tradition, but at least they will create a foundation from where you can build your scholarship or your writing.
So that's actually a very interesting, very generous, very generous perspective. Okay, so fine. So we'll move on to the next question. Two of you here are authors. Actually, all of you are authors, and there's one translator and one translator more. So I think there's a lot of curiosity amongst readers about how do we find stories? Where are the stories? What do we say? What do we tell? Because it's a very difficult, painstaking process to tell a story. It's quite painful, to be honest, because it takes time, it takes a lot of labor, it's a lot of hard work, right? And we all wish that we had great, interesting, amazing stories to tell all the time. We want to be in a sense, the center of the room, or the star, right? Because I think that's what a lot of writing is about. So, if I can start with you, Pankaj, about how did you find the story that you did tell? How did it come to you? Why did you tell that story, Fragile Thread of Hope? And what was the process? If you could just share with us a little bit so that there's some insight into the process itself.
Actually, as I told earlier, the personal experiences, they somehow tend to guide you towards your book, So I was going through a tragedy at that time. My father had passed away, so I was going through a lot of grief at that time. And my mom and some of my friends, they suggested, why don't you do something creative, to let go of the pain. So what I did was, when I started writing, it sort of healed me. And the reason why I started writing was this book was, first of all, the characters started coming to my mind, the characters, and it also certain experiences in my childhood and in my when I've grown old. So those experiences started coming in, and you see certain social evils as well, like alcoholism and certain social issues like domestic abuse and all. You hear about them.
You want that word?
Sorry.
You want?
So the experiences that you have, and they sort of go into the characters, and then that's how. And once you read a lot of books, also you sort of get inspiration about some characters, some aspects of some characters as well, So that's how I started. This idea of the Fragile Thread of Hope came to me, and then I started writing.
So for you, it was more of a therapeutic process.
Yes.
Yeah, for you, it was more of a therapeutic process than a more creative one, was it?
It was like a mixture of both, you could say. It's not that I just wanted to write about myself and my experiences, but I wanted to write a cohesive story about two characters based in Sikkim and the tragedies they face. And I also wanted to give a cultural background, like the culture and traditions that you follow, certain snapshots, and also certain social issues and all. It sort of crept into it. I didn't do it intentionally. It sort of crept into the characters and somehow and an emotional kind of inspirational kind of fiction. It sort of developed.
So was there a point in time when you were writing? Yes.
Because people
Meeting place, people, you keep visiting places where many things have happened over time. You all have watched Kashmir Files, right? Good. So 122 people, and it's a national crime. 3,000 people killed in one district. No news. No stories. No books. Why? 86 को आन्दोलनमा 3000 मान्छे मर्यो एउटा डिस्ट्रिक्टमा official figures 1236. Why is there no stories coming out? Because we have not reclaimed that space. Because we have not reclaimed that space. Today, Manjushri Thapa, one of the celebrated writers of Nepal, writes tutor of history in say around 7 years of Andolan. Maoist Andolan in 2004. That was 2002, 3, 4. Must be around 2004, 5. Tutor of history here. 2000. That means with the Jan Andolan finishing in 98, 99, 2000, bang, you have a book. But our story was still not told. It's been told in Nepali language. Patsum did well, and then Pulangi came out. But the story I wrote in 2017, and that is the reason. Vaini, please. Thank you. So, what generally happens is when you tell stories, you have this burden of all the stories that you have heard over a period of time. And when that happens, you have to unload. You can't live with a burden of all the stories that you have heard all through your life. Or you've met people who've lost